John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J. Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 124 of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. I am joined by Mitch Rogers, Peter Kriebel, Dan Angel making his triumphant return to the airwaves, and John Fredericks. Good morning, everyone. We have a loaded show.
Really the right word to use there?
I think so. We have a loaded show. We got what do we got? We got Jets fired Robert Saleh. Dan's time has finally come with a CFB Super League proposal. Bama loses to Vandy last Saturday. We got NFL games to break down. We got all sorts of topics, college and professional.
Hockey.
It's going to be a great show. And then John will find some way to work in hockey, I'm sure, at some point, even though it's not on the run sheet. So before we get too deep into this, I just want to let everyone know this is for entertainment purposes only. If you have a gambling problem, we do give out some gambling picks. If you have a gambling problem, I need you to call 1-800-GAMBLER if you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. Call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org if you're in Massachusetts, 877-G-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY if you're in New York. It's 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas or New Hampshire, 888-789-7777 or visit ccpj.org in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org if you're in Oregon. And boy, do I wish we just had a national gambling helpline so that I didn't have to do state by state for everything. Okay. Also, time to promote our socials. We are trying to get a little bit of traction on social media. Follow us at Godzilla Wins Big on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, everything that you can find social media stuff on. We are there. You're probably watching us on Getter. We're doing great on Getter, but everywhere else we need a little bit of help. So go ahead and check us out there. We'll be promoting our best picks. We recorded that yesterday, so that should be hitting the socials soon if it's not up there already. All right, let's just lead with the big story. Jets fire Robert Saleh. They go to London. They lay an egg. Woody Johnson is embarrassed, former ambassador to the UK. He comes back, and his first order of business after consulting nobody is fire Robert Saleh. I mean, we're going to keep it loose. I'm going to let everybody just jump in because I think that everyone probably has thoughts on this. I have my thoughts on it, but I just want to take the temperature of the room first before we get too deep into everything.
Second only to Mrs. Ford, owner of the Detroit Lions back 15 years ago, when she got tired of the Lions losing, and she walked into the Lions Stadium, I guess it was Ford Field, 82 years old, walks in, tells nobody, gets security with her, walks in, starts knocking on the doors, 9:05, the GM answers, player personnel answers, starts knocking on doors, goes in, says you're fired, goes right down the hall, fires them all, and leaves, and then has a press conference and just saying, well, you don't have any executives. You just fired everybody. You didn't even talk to anybody. And she says, well, we lost 25 out of 28 games with them. It really can't get worse. And she leaves. Right? It's right up there with that.
I think I saw something that nobody had been fired with like a winning percentage like above 40% or higher since like 91 maybe. This is only the second time I think in Woody Johnson's career he's fired a coach in season in 25 years. This is unprecedented in a lot of weird ways, and it makes me think that there's probably more to this story like it can't just be that they started 2-3. Like there has to be something going on with Robert Saleh that made this like such an urgent move, because there's not really anybody. There are no head coaches just in waiting in the New York Jets organization. Like Nathaniel Hackett was a disaster. Jeff Ulbrich now, like, I mean, these guys weren't like next in line to get head coaching jobs somewhere else in the near future, probably. So, like, what do we make of this, Dan? Is this going to solve all the problems?
Of course not. I mean, what I said about the Jets is coming correct. Like, I was never high on New York on the preseason. I thought Aaron Rodgers was too old. I thought that they had built around him, and I just didn't think it was going to work.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe I'm wrong. The problem, the Jets go on a long winning streak. I mean, the AFC East is certainly poor enough that they could do that, especially if they beat the Bills this next game. But I just don't see it.
That's where I thought the decision was kind of weird. Is like they're right in the mix of a weak AFC East division where they can go on a run and potentially win this thing. And there has to be more to it. I mean, I guess the writing was on the wall. I mean, we saw the interaction with Aaron Rodgers and Saleh, where they were pushing each other, and they said it was okay. You just can't tell. The one thing that's funny is like Aaron Rodgers was on Pat McAfee, and he's like, "Yeah, Woody Johnson called me the night before, just asking how I was feeling." Like you didn't talk about it at all. There's way you didn't talk about it at all, because the other move that was going to happen was not just Robert getting fired. His boy Nathaniel Hackett was not going to get the play calling duties either. That was being taken away. So they had to bring that up with Rodgers, but it is kind of weird. You just don't understand it, and the fact that they can be in the mix. But there must be frustration, not running the ball, not getting your weapons involved. But yeah, I think there's more to it. It feels like Boston Celtics kind of something's happened behind the scenes, maybe a little scandalous.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the reasons why I thought that they did this now is because this game with Buffalo this week is everything. Like if they lose this game, then the Bills are just going to walk to the division, because Buffalo still gets 2 more with the Patriots plus 1 with the Dolphins corpse. And yeah, the Jets aren't catching that if they lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like Roger Saleh had already sort of made up his mind before he got fired that he was probably going to either fire Nathaniel Hackett or at least demote him from some sort of the play calling strategy stuff. Peter, I mean, I've read a myriad of articles about how this sort of aged offense has looked more aged, playing, just sort of with the implementation of more motion than we've ever seen. There's been some really sort of new, modern play calling, and Aaron Rodgers basically has expressed total disinterest in really play action stuff, going in motion, anything that sort of is the modern offense that seems like it makes life difficult for defenses. Aaron Rodgers has decided that he just wants it all to ride on his brain and his right arm. Is there room for improvement here with this sort of stubborn approach to offense?
Yeah, there definitely is. But if I could just touch on Saleh, if I'm him, I feel like I got a raw deal, because I'm a defensive guy. You brought me in from a defensive coordinating position. My baby is the defense, and right now it's 5th in the league in points per game. Rodgers is this prickly character who's supposed to come in and solve all the problems. He is a spineless offensive coordinator who will just be his yes man, so Rodgers can do whatever the hell he wants. And the reason you're losing games is because the offense isn't productive. So I did my part, and I'm the one getting canned. If I'm Saleh, I'm livid about that. But yeah, like Rodgers needs to be challenged. When he's challenged, he's better. And now they have Todd Downing calling offensive plays, and anyone who's familiar with the 2022 Titans isn't going to be too psyched about that. But it's surprising. But I think Dan hit it right. It's you get that new head coach bump, some new energy, and just kind of stop the slide, even if it isn't totally the character who deserves to get his head cut. It's just you need to change something before this pivotal game against Buffalo.
Yeah, and it is a pivotal game. I mean, this is, they're tied for the lead in the AFC East. They'll have the tie break over Buffalo, obviously. I mean, this is a huge moment for sort of Jets Nation, and I remember reading stuff that people said that Woody Johnson was going to be really embarrassed that they lost in London because he has like so many friends there, because he was the ambassador, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Jack, like, I mean, we've been talking about this all week and just sort of like what a hilarious mess the Jets are. An administrative nightmare, I believe Peter called them last weekend when we've been reusing that term. You wanna add anything to this Robert Saleh sort of just disaster in New York?
Well, I think at the outset, my first inclination when we're talking about the London thing is like billionaires absolutely are thin-skinned enough to fire someone after being embarrassed in a city where all their friends live. So I completely agree with that storyline or that rumor or piece of gossip, because if we know anything about billionaires, it's that they can't take any type of criticism in any way, shape, or form. So, no shout out to the billionaires there. As far as Robert Saleh goes, I think he'll be fine as a head coach. I think, as Peter said, everybody kind of understands that it's not his fault. This sort of firing issue, the defense has been fine. And so he's going to get another job next year. Absolutely. He's being paid something like $25,000 a day. So I think he's probably going to be okay for the time being. And we talked about this last week when it came to the wide receivers. Like, this is what Aaron Rodgers does. If they're not winning, then he's not happy. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't happy, then he's blaming everybody else for problems that he has, I would say, a pretty major part in, being the quarterback of the offense, and the fact that the Jets' problems stem from offense. That, and the fact that, Nathaniel Hackett, we know Nathaniel Hackett kind of sucks, and yet he keeps getting jobs because of his friendship with Rodgers. So this is just a whole thing where, like, this is like a movie, like an old quarterback comes in and just totally ruins like the vibes of a locker room and franchise because they're used to being babies.
What locker room vibes? This team has been losing for 3 years. What is the locker?
For
how
40
does the
years.
Locker room get any worse? 4 years.
40.
Okay,
Well,
the vibes are really good when you win 3 games.
They didn't fire Saleh last year, and the offensive production after the first 4 or 5 games looks almost exactly like it did last year.
Well, because they got Hackett.
Statistically, almost exactly when they had Wilson, and everybody was blaming Wilson. Everybody. Now it's the wide receiver's fault. It's Saleh's fault. It's everybody but Aaron Rodgers' fault. Maybe the problem is that Aaron Rodgers is too old, runs an outdated, complicated system, and cannot, as a human being, grow enough to lead a team that needs an actual leader and isn't just part of the Packers sort of machine of good football.
Well,
And speaking of that, I cannot wait until 2038, 2039 when the Jets bring in Jordan Love.
Yes,
it's going to be great. I think a lot of that is Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a lot with what we saw with Ben Roethlisberger, where a lot of your magic, the reason why you were so elite was because his escapability in the pocket, to extend plays, and that's gone away. And so he does need to entertain the more modern offense. But I just hope that somewhere behind the scenes there was some you just gotta say HUD a little bit less loud. You got to just, tone it down a little bit on your cadence. And then Roger be like, no. And then that led to the firing. That's what I want. That's how I'm hoping this all played out, just because he wouldn't be quiet when he snapped the ball.
All right, let's.
Why do they keep Nathaniel Hackett? I mean, the guy's a complete walking, talking offensive coordinator catastrophe. I mean, if you're going to get rid of Saleh, get rid of him too.
You can't displease Rodgers.
The guy that Sean Payton said was the worst coach in NFL history or something.
I don't know, but you hate Sean Payton too. So I don't know why you're quoting some guy that you're always talking about how you hate that guy. I mean, the problem, Peter said, the problem that like what Peter said, right? That's Rodgers' buddy. That would displease Rodgers. And the rumors were that Saleh was going to fire Hackett, and they fired Saleh instead, because this whole industry is about helping your friends keep and get jobs.
Yeah, it's the same reason you dust off 35-year-old Randall Cobb when he has no business being on an NFL roster. It's just you appease Rodgers because you hope he can, lift you above what you've been.
If I'm the Jets, I trade for Flacco.
Why you guys all down on Rodgers? All right, so he's got a complicated offense. I mean, the guy's
I don't blame Rodgers.
MVP quarterback. I mean, you know what do the
because he's
Jets
on the
need?
wrong side
Kyler
of
Murray,
40.
who doesn't go to the film room and just draws up plays in the
Kyler
dirt.
Murray is
I mean,
having a lot better season than Aaron Rodgers right now. I
Yeah,
would,
right.
I
Right
would,
now,
Yeah.
I will absolutely.
The
take
Cardinals
Kyler
look
Murray.
well, maybe
Yeah,
that's
I'll
the
take
new
Kyler
NFL.
Murray.
Yeah, I'd take Kyler
Like-
Murray too. I bet
Yeah,
everyone
I'll
on the
take
Jets
Kyler
would be like, "Yeah, we'll take Kyler."
Think of what they're complaining about. Oh, the offense of Aaron Rodgers is too complicated. Well, go to the film room. What the hell's that mean? I mean, Jackson there studying for a PhD, working like 18 hours a day trying to figure this out. Oh, it's too complicated. He's too much cadence, too much this, and too much work in the film room. He's too old school. No, the guy wins games if you just pay attention to what he's saying.
He threw
All right,
56 times.
I'll
He
take
threw
him.
56 times, so he can't throw that much.
Offense,
I mean,
his offense is ranked
running the game.
27th in the NFL.
It's just bad. And I think that we've gotten on Aaron Rodgers, and I want to give Dan his moment here because this is finally Dan's time. Proposed college sports tomorrow, and a group of executives and administrators has proposed streamlining college football into a quote super league called the College Student Football League. The plan would include the reorganization of 136 football bowl subdivision teams into 2 conferences. The top 72 programs in the country would compete in the Power 12 conference, which would be made up of 12 6-team divisions based on geography. The remaining 64 would make up the group of 5. There would be relegation, promotion. This is what Dan's been hoping for years. He's been talking on the show about it for years. Dan, why don't you just tell us why this is the greatest idea that college football has ever had?
No relegation, just promotion. I don't get that.
Yeah, I know.
You give me some of that.
So far, it's a good idea. It's not a great one yet because there's a couple things that change. Relegation needs to happen. And also, instead of 6 12-team conferences, it should be 8 9-team conferences. I mean, that fills out the schedule a little more. It's the same math, 72 teams either way. So, I sketched out a plan of where teams would fit. Like, one example, you'd have West Virginia in a league with Notre Dame, Boston College, Penn State, Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse, Cincinnati, Maryland.
Love it.
Like, those are all games that except maybe 1 or 2 of them West Virginia fans would care about. You'd have Michigan in a league with Michigan State, Illinois, Ohio State, Northwestern, Purdue, Indiana. Throw Kentucky and Louisville in there because they're closer to Great Lakes schools. You'd get most of the ACC back together. The Pac-12 would be back together. Like, all these games fans would care about. And then there'd still be 3 or 4 other non-conference games that you could schedule. And a team like a Boise State or a Memphis or a Tulane that has success on the field could win their way up as opposed to just making the right friends 80 years ago like Vanderbilt did. Vanderbilt would, and of course, this happens right as Vanderbilt beats Alabama, so the timing is terrible in that aspect. But Vanderbilt would have to actually maintain its spot. And what I'd really like to see with promotion and relegation is the team that finishes last in their conference, they play the top team in the respective geographic conference from the group of 5 in a winner-take-all matchup like they do in the Bundesliga. The winner gets that spot in the top conference. The loser goes down to the second tier. And you can do this with pretty much every tier, like a school like a Montana State or a South Dakota State or a North Dakota State could win their way up and possibly get to the Big Ten someday. Like, I love a lot of things about this. It's still some things that need to be hammered out, but overall, I think this is a really good step in the right direction. Also,
and I just
on
love
soccer
that we're a
teams.
platform where Dan is soft launching his candidacy for chairman of this league.
Also, my Finnish
Good
soccer
luck, good
team, champions of Finland's 2nd division. We are going up.
It feels like the college football world would be ready for it. I mean, we're about to watch a game where the Red River rivalry is now in the SEC, and no one really cares. So right now, like if you did something like this with the NIL, the transfer portal, everything's so upside down. This would be the time to do it. How can it be done? Does it take a voting? Does the NCAA involved in it, or is it?
You just have to get the schools and the conferences on board, and you'd have to get them to sever football from every other sport. Like, you'd have to make sure that football was under one umbrella, and then every other sport would just fall under an all sports conference, because it's just insane. I mean, it's insane enough that California and Pittsburgh are going to be playing a conference game today. Like, none of that makes any sense. But it's even more ridiculous that California and Pittsburgh will play a conference game in women's soccer or volleyball or baseball. I mean, there's no point to that. Nobody was asking for that. It's just football and dollars driving everything. So let's separate football from everything, get these conferences making sense again, and let's give fans games they care about.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I mean, and yeah, like to Mitch's point, you know, we've already sort of divorced ourselves from this idea of sort of like traditional rivalries, traditional sort of geographic things. Anyways, like if there was ever a time for this to be sort of a possibility to explore, it would have to be now. I mean, in an era where all the sort of old guard is crumbling and everything is new and everything's weird. I mean, you may as well just try and take a stab at it, because you might never have the shot again. I mean, 15 years ago, this would have been unthinkable, but now with NIL,
Yeah, but you're never gonna unravel this though, Dan, because of the money involved. I mean, there's so many billions of
Sure you
dollars
can.
involved here. The way this is never going to happen with these elites up there and the suits running these things and all the money that's tied up now.
You can make more money doing this, John.
Well, you might say that on
you get the
paper. I mean,
QBs
I'm not
behind it,
saying
then
this.
everything-
I'm not
then everything goes
criticizing the idea, Dan. Okay, it's a great
I know.
idea. It's just not. It's just in reality, it's not going to happen. Especially with this NIL thing it's getting crazier by the week. I mean, you're now getting players suing universities because they said the university violated a verbal agreement. So you're on the phone with the coach and says, "Yeah, we're going to give you X, $2 million," and they get 100,000, and now they're suing. There's no paper. I mean, and this is becoming rampant now. So the whole thing is like the Wild West. It's crazy.
Sure.
So I don't know. There's so much money involved.
But I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think there would be more money if they went to this, because like you have games right now that fans just do not care about. Yeah. I mean, nobody cares about Washington Rutgers. People would care about
people that bet the under do.
Well, sure.
It's a game.
Gianni's family.
But the casual fan is not tuning in on a Friday night to watch Washington Rutgers or Oregon Purdue.
Like, never been to Jersey.
They want to see games that both sides care about.
I mean, so with this,
and we get back to the Pac-12 after dark era, which was always the best,
And so and this is just a question for Dan in this hypothetical world, because I didn't get a chance to really read the article that closely. In this relegation, there's still the conferences like the SEC, the ACC still exist, because if not, I think the problem is branding, right? Like it doesn't really matter who's in the SEC. What matters is that the SEC on CBS is always good. You know what I mean? I mean, that's why we like the Pac-12, right? We like the Pac-12 after dark, regardless of if it's Arizona State. Shout out to the Sun Devils who just upset Utah last night. Or, whether it's they do look really good.
I would say they made me look good because I picked them to cover and took the under.
I saw that, yeah.
Did you go to the game?
No, I wouldn't do that. But I looked fun, but that's not really my speed.
Yeah.
So do we have brand in this? That's my question. Do we have brands?
Not yet.
Conferences.
Not yet, but we could. Like when I sketched out the 8-9 team conferences, I did use branding, like the Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, all that. I mean, you'd need a couple new names because you'd have a few more power conferences, like for example, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, BYU, Texas Tech, TCU, SMU, Baylor. It's like, is that really the Big 12? Is that really on the Mountain Conference? It's tough to really get a good brand on that, but I mean that could be figured out.
Yeah, you could just cater to the kids, name a Riz division, get it going.
Oh Lord,
rolling, baby. SEC, blow.
Let's move on to the anti-argument for the college realignment. Vanderbilt upsets Alabama, number one team in the country, formerly no more. Diego Pavia has just a game for the ages, looks just unbelievable on third down, completes all the big passes, incredible plays at the end of the game to keep it as an upset. Rip the goalpost down, run them down Broadway, dump them into the Cumberland River. An all-time college moment and one of the all-time upsets in recent memory. I think that we were all I don't think that any of us sat here and thought Vanderbilt has a real shot in this game. So I'm not even going to ask that question. But just like, how do we make sense of this? I mean, Alabama just comes off beating Georgia. Was it just a little bit of a sleeper game because, they just played this monster game against Georgia and then they just kind of just fell asleep at the wheel when they went up to Nashville? I mean, what do we make of this, guys?
Well, I think the real reason Vanderbilt won is obvious. There's no question about it. They all went to Healthy Cell and they ordered REM sleep and they took it that night. And they had like the best night's sleep in their life in Nashville. And then Alabama comes in. They didn't have REM sleep. They didn't take Healthy Cell. So that gave them a tremendous edge. I tell you what, if you want to get up every day, fresh as a daisy, jump out of bed, feel good, and be able to play Vanderbilt beating Alabama, winning football, you got one place to go, and that's Healthy Cell. You got to get your REM sleep. Just look at the pictures of these guys. You can tell right on the screen who's taking REM sleep and who's not. Now, Peter's out because he's 19 or 20, so he doesn't need it, right? But let's look at the other play. You know that Jack is taking REM sleep because he looks phenomenal. You know that I'm taking it because I look phenomenal. You know that Mitch is taking it because he looks great. Some of the others, I don't know what's questionable. I'm just saying, let's go to healthycell.com. Go to healthycell.com. I mean, I don't think Nate took his Healthy Cell last night. Go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla. You are going to get 20% off. And you take this thing 15 minutes before you go to bed. It's all natural, puts you in the deepest sleep ever. I don't know what you're doing out there, but if you want to have a great night's sleep and you want to feel super when you jump out of bed and be like me and Jack and Mitch, I mean, we're all like so vibrant all the time. Why? Because we're taking Healthy Cell REM sleep and getting that deep sleep. Let's go to healthycell.com, healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla. Get your 20% off. Change your life with Healthy Cell.
Now that we've made a little money, anybody have any thoughts on the Vanderbilt-Alabama game?
I think after the Georgia game, it's an extreme letdown. And the turnovers, the second pass of the day, it's tip, return for a touchdown, Jalen Milroe. But it's just kind of like symptomatic of where college football is, right now. There just isn't, with the nil and the transfer portal, there is, and half of the other teams that we're talking about that are playing well, we talk about this, the transfer from Alabama, transfer from Georgia. So you're seeing a lot of parity, but I think it was just a letdown game. But unprecedented. I love the fact that, they've been ribbing on Saban because Saban said it's the easiest place in the SEC to play. And half the fans are always that Bama fans. And, that came to roost real quick. But I think it's a letdown game. And also it's just the parody of college football is coming out with the portal and stuff.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit of things. I feel like it's certainly a letdown game. Like, it's Kalen DeBoer, not Nick Saban. Nick Saban would never lose this game. It wouldn't have been even close. I've got friends who are Alabama fans who thought that this could happen basically because they were like, listen, we looked really bad the last two quarters of that Georgia game. We beat them in the first half and just were lucky to hold on. And then afterwards, the press conference was like, and this is coming from some friends I have who are Alabama fans, were just like, DeBoer is going up there saying, we're the best team in the country. Nobody outworks us. We grind. And Bama fans are sitting there thinking, we looked pretty shaky in the second half. If Saban was up there, he'd be pointing out the problems and saying they're going to run, stadiums till they puke on Tuesday. That's how you avoid letdown games like that. They had, we're going to talk about turnovers in a minute. When it comes to Indiana, they had a couple turnovers as well. A pick six, you can't do that against any team really. So I don't know if it's parity so much as I kind of think this is like, I'm not shocked that Kalen DeBoer had this happen. Like, it's more like a Nick Saban hangover. Like, this is going to happen when you don't have one of the greatest coaches of all time coaching your team anymore. You're just not going to be ready for every game. And it's kind of like, welcome to the rest of the world, Alabama. Like, but Alabama hasn't lost to Vanderbilt since '93, so this is historic.
Dan, I know you've been wanting to get in here.
The thing is, it didn't feel like a fluke because Vanderbilt did so well in the trenches. I mean, there were a couple of fluky plays, like a tip pass that Dom ended up going for a pick six, as Jack alluded to. So, I mean, Vanderbilt still needed a lot to go right to win this game. But Vanderbilt really won this game in the trenches, and that is not supposed to happen to Alabama, and certainly not supposed to happen to Alabama against Vanderbilt. So it's a sign that maybe Alabama isn't quite as good as we expected. Maybe Vanderbilt is a lot further along on its rebuild than people thought and is actually going to be pretty decent moving forward. So I don't know. It's really tough because the SEC has looked really good at times and then has had moments where things just make you go, what? Because like you look at Missouri in escaping from Vanderbilt looks a lot better now given what Vanderbilt did, but Missouri just got blasted by Texas A&M. And I mean, Tennessee, they go to Arkansas and they lose that game. So I don't know what it is. I mean, the SEC just doesn't really have a dominant team right now outside of Texas. And we'll see if the Longhorns can continue to prove that they're the top dog.
The good thing about the SEC now having 65 teams in the conference is that when one team fails, another team just rises to the top. So 1 week it's Georgia number one, they lose to Bama. Then it's Bama number one, they lose to Vanderbilt. Now Texas is like number one. They'll probably lose to Oklahoma, and all of a sudden it'll be Texas A&M. So we just keep expanding to the point where you can't beat us on sheer arithmetic.
This just in, JMU just joined the SEC for no reason. Just because they have it.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. And potentially maybe Indiana will join if they keep winning, and they can be the top dog in the SEC. Dan, tell us, you wrote this really good article about Indiana football, or Indiana man on the ground here. The reason you haven't been able to join us on the show is because you've been working, it seems like, every game in the state for the last few weeks.
And some games out of the state.
And some out of the state in the greater Midwest.
Yeah, I'm actually doing out of state today. My game today is Purdue, Illinois. Joy to the max.
There we go. Headed to Champaign. Okay, so tell us a little bit about just sort of, Indiana football has been shocking. They're undefeated. This is, one of the best starts in recent memory, as you sort of noted. It looks like it might be sustainable. There's a real chance that they, set the school record of 10 wins. That seems doable in your opinion. What's been going right for Indiana? Is it just soft scheduling? Is it actually good play? Is it, again, just this sort of parity that we've been talking about? What's been going right with Indiana?
I mean, the biggest thing that's going right for Indiana is, for the most part, there's been one exception in there, but for the most part, the Hoosiers are not making mistakes. Like, the biggest thing in Tom Allen's final 3 years in Bloomington was that Indiana shot itself in the foot over and over and over again. Like 2020, it was a crazy year. It was also Allen's best year with the Hoosiers. Indiana went 6-2, and they finished that season +8 in turnovers. The past 3 years, the Hoosiers have been -22 in turning the ball over. And last year, they went 1-8 in the Big Ten. The one game that they won, they were +2 in turnovers against Wisconsin. They were -8 the rest of the season. And when they brought in Curt Cignetti, the biggest thing about James Madison and why the Dukes were so good was because JMU forced turnovers and didn't commit them. His final 3 years in Harrisonburg, JMU +29 in turnovers. And Indiana has taken on that same mindset. They had one game against Maryland, which was played in the remnants of Hurricane Helene. That game was a nightmare. It was rainy the whole game. I had no service. It was just a mess. Indiana turned it over 4 times that day. But other than that, they have not shot themselves in the foot at all. And the other thing with the Hoosiers is the defense has been good enough in the first half to carry the load until the offense gets their legs under them. Like the first game against Florida International, not a very impressive showing for the offense in the first half, but the defense did what it needed to, and Indiana got itself to where it needed to be to eventually pull away and win that game by 24. Against Maryland, it was the same thing. While the offense was shooting itself in the foot, the defense made sure Maryland couldn't do anything with those short fields. And then as the game wore on, Indiana's offense got its act together and pulled away in the fourth quarter. And that's basically what the Hoosiers have been doing all season.
So what's the ceiling here? I mean, they catch most of their tough games at home.
They do.
They dodge Ohio State. Is that correct?
They do not dodge Ohio State. They have to go to Columbus.
Okay,
They dodge Michigan though.
They do not dodge Michigan. Michigan
No.
comes to Bloomington.
They dodge Penn. They dodge Penn State.
They dodge Penn State. Yes.
Okay,
They dodge
that's right.
JMU. They don't play JMU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They dodge Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
that is also true. But anyway, so the rest of the Hoosiers slate, it's not completely favorable, but it's not too terrible. I mean, Nebraska and Washington are winnable games. I mean, Indiana will have to play well, but both games could easily be wins, and they're at home. Michigan is doable this year. Michigan State away, it could be a trap game, but Michigan State is not looking terribly impressive, and Purdue is just awful. So there's a very reasonable chance that Indiana could roll into Columbus at 9-1 or even 10-0 if they can figure out that Michigan game. And if they do, I don't know if the schedule is quite good enough for them to get in the playoff if they don't make the Big Ten title game.
That was going to be my next question.
Even think about that as a possibility is just remarkable on its own. I think what ends up happening is Indiana ends up going probably around 10-2 and ends its year probably in like the Citrus Bowl or the Gator Bowl, some decent upper tier bowl in Florida.
And they're Ohio State and Michigan's worst nightmare. They're loose. They have nothing to lose. They've
Sure.
already bowl eligible. They've already exceeded expectations, and
point.
they're going to that's going to be fun matchups at the end of the year. I mean, obviously their schedule gets way harder, but they put themselves in a position to be able to pull off some upsets.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get that Indiana Ohio State game in Columbus.
No, that'd be awesome.
Keep
You got
it
a plus
just-
one?
No, they don't pay me for any.
I'll be your stats guy. I'll just write your stats. Come on.
I'm my own stats guy for it. That's
Yeah,
what
I figured-
what
I
I'm
figured
doing in the stands.
You'd be like, these are wrong.
Yeah, well, that's the old way to cover us football and basketball and stuff. When you got to like back in the day, you used to announce the game and do the stats and have to memorize the numbers, and there was nobody there. I mean, it's really tough.
Now they have an app for it.
Yeah, I used to just sit there and write stats.
There were no apps, and I would just beg the people that were giving me the roster, please put it in numerical order. That's all I ask for. Just 1 to 57, whatever it is. You never get it. It would be like 1, 10, 18. So you'd be going down the thing trying to find, who's returning the kick. You could never do it. So those days are over. But I feel your pain, buddy. No question about it. Here's how to ease your pain. Go to Rosie's today and win money. Don't have pain there. Rosie's is the most fun thing. We can't wait to go back to Virginia. We're going in a couple weeks. We love to go into Rosie. They're all over Virginia. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go. You drive in the state, there's a Rosie's there. You go over the border, you're going to find one right there. And they're outside of Danville and Collinswood. I can't remember all. They're in Vinton by Roanoke, Southwest Virginia. They're in Dumfries and Nova. They're all over the place. Richmond, New Kent, Hampton, you name it. They got new ones coming up all the time. They're in downtown Richmond, right by our studio. And South Richmond, they're all over the place. So all you got to do is go to rosiegaming.com. You're going to have so much fun. Downstairs, they got all the machines. They got, the big high rollers upstairs. But the reason it's fun is it's different. It's not like going to Reno or going to one of the casinos and the windows are shut and they're pumping in oxygen and everybody's smoking. No, there's not smoking areas. It's really a great place to be. But you're going to win money, and they got the biggest jackpots and they get the biggest payouts. Why? Because they have the lowest takeout of any slot machine casino in the country. The lowest. That's what the General Assembly said in Virginia in their wisdom. Good job. So more money in, more money out. That's why they have the biggest jackpots, biggest winners. So much fun there. You go upstairs. You got OTB all over the place. You got the sports book. They're up to 2. Everything is upstairs at all of the Rosies. Check it out. rosiesgaming.com. Have fun. Win money. Great place for a date. I tell you what. Significant other. Check it out. Just go to rosiesgaming.com. rosiesgaming.com. A proud sponsor of Godzilla Wins from its inception. We thank Rosie's for their belief in us as our show has grown. They came in at the onset, and they've been with us the whole time. So we want to thank them for that. Only because of sponsors like Rosie's are we here for you every Saturday morning, and we can pay all our people. And so thank you, Rosie's, and thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you.
From our man on the ground in Indiana to our man on the ground in Virginia, Peter Kriebel. The Cavs are 4-1. They're close to eclipsing their win mark for the last 2 seasons combined. I think they had 5 wins the previous 2 seasons combined. They're now at 4-1. They're looking like a relatively competent team. I mean, Calandria's looked okay, which is a pretty good step for, I think, Virginia fans. They're playing Louisville today, and I guess this will be the first sort of real test. Louisville's a pretty big favorite, even though they come into this 3-2, kind of limping in after losing 2 games. The sentiment seems to be that they're still a much better team than Virginia. What's the pulse of this Virginia team? Are people like fired up, or do they just also think this is maybe just sort of a smoke and mirrors start?
Yeah, I would say there's a general excitement that hasn't been there in years prior. As you mentioned, Calandria playing a lot better, minimizing the turnovers, which was the biggest concern coming into the year. And then last week against Boston College, really just executed when it mattered. Wasn't a huge offensive output. They had 17 points and a fumble return for a touchdown. So it was really a defensive game in that one, but that's not going to be enough against Louisville. Louisville has this explosive passing attack. And so that's kind of strength against strength. Like Virginia's defense has been kind of a surprise this season, particularly against the past. So yeah, I ACC games, I don't know that there's really, other than Clemson, a clear cut, upper crust. And I think Louisville's maybe, Virginia went into Louisville last year and gave them a hard time. So I would say Virginia should take it as a little bit of disrespect, just not being considered, on par with Louisville. But yeah, as far as excitement, I would say the biggest disappointment around this team has been some of the students' excitement. Like last week against Boston College, huge ACC game, and our hill was pretty sparsely covered and then practically empty come second half. So yeah, and it's going to be even worse this week because kids are going home for fall break. So no, it's not turning into like a raucous pseudo SEC environment or anything, but I don't know. I don't know how many games you need to win for it to be anything close to that.
A lot. But yeah, they're playing better. I mean, look, we carry them on our network in Virginia, and the last couple of seasons, I mean, the ratings were like they were bottom feeder ratings. I mean, nobody tuned in the Cavalier football team. They tune in basketball, obviously, but we can just see by the number of people tuning in the Cavs games in our network in Virginia that the interest is going way up. And look, that's what winning does. I've only went to one Cavs game in Charlottesville, and I think they beat William and Mary 2, 3, 4 seasons ago. But I mean, when they're winning there, it's a pretty electric atmosphere. And they sing that song. What was that song they sing when they score a touchdown? That everybody was singing. I couldn't figure it out. What is that song?
The good old song.
Yeah, everybody gets up and you're supposed to hold hands or something. I couldn't really figure it out, but it's kind of a fun atmosphere, and it's happy to see them winning, playing good football on two sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I had this pipe dream of a flagship state school in the South that looks like a flagship state school in the South regarding football. And yeah, I would say the Charlottesville faithful, the non-student population shows up even when the team doesn't necessarily deserve it, and especially now that they do. And it's the student section that's really not holding up their end of the agreement.
Well, Virginia's kind of weird, like with football, because I mean, like the days when Virginia Tech was dominating nationally, was winning the Big East every year, was a national power in football. The collective attitude in Virginia was, "Who cares? You're not in the ACC."
Well, that was a Beamer Bowl days, but the difference though in Virginia Tech and Blacksburg is when they were winning, dude, that play. I went to one game there. That place rocked.
Absolutely.
I mean, that thing was like you could feel when they were getting ready to score. When they were really competitive back then with Beamer Ball, whatever they called it, you could feel the stadium just shifting under your feet. That was a place to be.
Sure, but is some of this just like nobody cares about football in Virginia? They just care about basketball. Like, is some of this just like we're a basketball school, so like nobody turns out to games? Because that's the way it was. Like when I was at Nevada, Like nobody went to football games, but everyone went to basketball games. You know,
That's because
like,
it was too
I know
cold.
that-
Well,
That's
yeah,
true,
I
too.
mean, and look at it, and I know I've been joking about JMU, bringing them up jokingly, but JMU has probably a better football program than UVA does right now because of that stigma. And you know what, UVA, shame on them. They need to recruit in Virginia more. There's, you know, and not
Virginia Tech
necessarily.
too.
Yeah, and that's when Virginia Tech was lethal.
Mhm.
They were down in the Virginia Beach area. They also went to Northern Virginia with some good football up there. And UVA has barely any players from Virginia that start on that team. So if you're going to be mediocre to above average, at least do it with the kids in your state. And
Do academics play into that?
I'm sure
They
I'm
do.
sure.
They do a little,
Yeah.
but I mean, like my high school, like we had some good academic. We had some good guys who were good in academics, good football, and like Virginia just wasn't even on their radar, and vice versa. Whereas,
Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where'd you go to high school?
Liberty.
Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah. I went to Fauquier. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
Peter,
inter-county.
Remember that connection, Mitch?
academics.
I do. Yeah. That's how I'm here. That's how I'm here.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say is the school, well, the stadium makes it hard because it is this hill and people can't sit. Like kids can't sit, and that's stupid to say, right? I mean,
Memorial's got a hill.
they're college. Yeah, they're college students. They should be able to stand for the whole game, but you're talking about 3-4 hours and they want to go and party at halftime. It's a little frustrating, and it's this.
It's not an excuse. I'm sorry.
Well,
Well,
I'm not. I mean, I'm in the press box. I can't.
Yeah. But I mean, to Peter's point, though, like facilities are important. And usually, I mean, I don't know about Virginia's facilities or their stadium. I mean, this stuff is a $1 billion business. You just have to, it has to be continual investment every year to update as much as you can in order to recruit anyone. And now you've got the NIL money, which should help, programs like Virginia, but also you have to continue to invest. I mean, that's that famous story about Saban when they showed him around and he was interviewing for the job at Alabama and they were like, "What do you think?" And he was like, "Oh my God, it sucks here. Like your facilities are awful." And they're, this is like Alabama, right? These boosters are like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "No, like all these facilities, like you're not going to get anyone to come here for that reason." And so, it's just continual investment that like a school like UVA doesn't necessarily have the appetite for that, a school like another, flagship Southern school might have for all sorts of reasons. I want to do one thing real quick though, because you guys convinced me of the future greatness of both Indiana and Virginia. So I just locked in a parlay. Indiana, Big Ten Conference Championship game winner.
Oh,
Virginia,
yeah,
ACC Conference Championship game winner, plus 107,000. So that $10 is going to make me rich.
Okay, this is on you, Jack. I even said that I don't think Indiana's making the Big Ten title game.
You got to take a shot, but Jack, great
You
shirt.
got to take a shot.
Let me see that shirt again. Just put your arms out. That's a great looking shirt you got there.
Let's move on.
Houston Astros, I love it.
Okay.
One
I'll tell you though, one thing on
there.
Virginia though. One thing on Virginia, they put the money in upgrading their baseball stadium, right? Because they always have
they
a
got a great
baseball.
And
They got. I mean, that is a gorgeous
They
baseball.
did just
stadium.
invest in a new facility, $80 million new facility.
But to Mitch's point, UVA's got to show up. Like the team that gets the most talent out of Virginia cannot be Penn State.
Right.
It just doesn't work. Like, I mean, when I was coming up, the big name out of our part of the state was Kelly Washington. He went to Tennessee and ended up in the NFL.
Yeah.
When I got into high school, it was Percy Harvin. He goes to Florida. Like that cannot happen.
Yeah, Percy Harvin, I got to cover the quarterfinal stage. I've never seen a player with my own two eyes better. It's amazing. And then he left the state. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
We were thankful we were in AA and didn't have to worry about Lansdowne because of him.
Right.
All right, so we got one football game that we do want to break down for real here. Red River Rivalry Week. We got number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns taking on the number 18th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. I'm just going to go ahead and get out ahead of this before anybody starts talking about the home dog. I'm looking at you, John. This is not being played in Norman, Oklahoma. This is being played in Dallas, as it always is. at the Cotton Bowl Stadium. So before we start, misremembering or misspeaking about where this game is being played, it is at a neutral site as it always is. I just want to go ahead and just, I don't want to have that happen. I don't want Dan jumping in and interrupting you when you start talking about how hard it is to play in Norman. So, okay.
Great.
Now that we got the disclaimer out of the way.
That's a great host disclaimer. Keep doing that. Thank you. I really
Dial
appreciate
1-800 misinformation.
I knew Jack and I made a good decision when we installed you as host. We're now vindicated for life. That was really good. That and your disclaimers. Actually, you out disclaimer my son. Your disclaimers, like I could send that
I'm the
tape.
king of disclaimers. I walk around saying disclaimers when I'm not on the radio. So
yeah,
I'm always like, hey, 1-800 bets off, guys. So.
I have to make disclaimers whenever I talk about this show. It's basically like my whole job. All right, so
yeah, for real.
Texas is a big favorite in this game. It's gone from about 14.5 when I first woke up this morning to 15 when I was getting ready for the show to 15.5 now that I pull it up that I'm looking at lines. So all the money seems to be pouring in on the Longhorns here. And the Longhorns look great. It looks like Quinn Ewers is going to be back. If he's not back, who cares? Then it'll be Arch Manning. Maybe even better. This is the biggest spread that I can remember in recent memory for the Longhorns in this matchup. I can't remember them being this big of a favorite really ever. They look excellent. The offensive line looks incredible. Quinn Ewers basically never gets pressured. They played Michigan, which looked to have one of the best pass rush units in the country, and he basically never got touched. He got sacked once and basically never got not touched. Is Texas just like for real? Are they just the next team that we're just going to go ahead and crown and move on? Is there any way to slow them down? I guess
so. We can just spur the convo, and I'll give you my other two best bets of the day. I got three best bets. I love Texas here. Nobody's stopping them. Who's got Oklahoma now? All of a sudden, got to step up and stop this team. Somebody's got to beat them. I don't see it. Dallas, Oklahoma, Norman, China. I don't care where London. I don't care where they're playing this damn game. This team is unstoppable. And I'm with Nate. It doesn't even matter who the quarterback is. So until somebody can stop them, until somebody can stop this offense, 15, 16, 17, this is going to be a blowout. I love Texas. Let me give you my other two best bets in college before we run out of time. Panthers, Pitt Panther, not a Panthers fan, but they just keep winning games, folks. I'm not, I'm stubborn, but I'm not stupid. Okay. So this is a good football team on both sides of the ball. So I love Pitt today, minus 3.5. I also love Penn State minus 3.5 over Cal. Cal coming all the way across the country, coming to Happy Valley. Are you kidding me? What time did you get off that plane? What was that, like going to Moscow? It's like 15-hour plane ride or something. I love Penn State here at home, laying the 3.5, taking nothing away from Cal. But, this is the downside of going to the Big Ten. You got to fly to Happy Valley on a midweek and play this team minus 3.5 at home. So Penn State, Pitt, Texas.
You're 7-11 on daily picks. You're 7-11 on the NCAA football picks.
Yeah, I suck.
Down 3,000 units.
Yeah.
Why did we spend 4 minutes on your hot takes here?
Because I'm coming back, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's big hockey win last night. Had a major hockey win. I'm coming back. I'm charging back.
It's sad that we had to do that.
I'm old enough. I'm not getting on this Texas hype. I'm old enough to remember when Texas always seems to figure out a way to not do what they're supposed to do. And Oklahoma loves, wins with the turnovers, right? And their running back last week for Texas, Jaden Blue, fumbled it twice. So if there's a chance for this, it's in the turnover game, and it can be very possible. And this is a true rivalry. 15 points just seems a little steep for me. I would go with Oklahoma.
I just keep looking at the quarterback situation for Oklahoma and sort of what's been written. Hawkins has been okay, as a freshman trying to sort of guide them, but he has basically no one to throw to. The injury report is almost too long for radio in their wide receiver core. He's led the team in rushing as a quarterback. He basically never throws it because nobody's, even out there to get open. They just walk out there and just provide some space for him to run. So, I mean, in terms of it just being like a fairly one-dimensional offense right now, that's pretty tough. Handicap. On the other hand, I just think when everyone's counting out Oklahoma in this game, they probably just go out and hang around and keep it close. Dan, speak some reason to me.
Points. That's what you do in the Red River rivalry. You go for the over. Like, these teams score and score and score some more. Like, the last time that the under cashed was 2 years ago when Oklahoma didn't score when they were going through a complete mess and Texas won 49-0 and the over almost cashed anyway. So this number is too low. 49.5 should very much be in play here. The other play that I really like is Ohio State and Oregon under 54.5. I think those defenses rule that day.
I looked at Texas team total over if we're concerned about Oklahoma.
I'm not concerned about Oklahoma putting up points this year.
You aren't,
but,
okay.
But I think Texas team total would probably also be a good play.
I'm writing them down.
Right. I kind of like the under. I feel like both these teams have pretty solid defense this year. I mean, I know
they usually do, but it just doesn't seem to matter in this game.
I know, but I just keep thinking, don't play the Red River rival trend. Like, just play because you know what? I got burned on the Vanderbilt game because I was live betting Alabama, like my entire life savings in the fourth quarter being like, so this never happens. And so the trends just are going to bear out and Bama's going to win this game. And I'm going to be, I'm going to have enough money to invest in Standard Oil or something. And that didn't happen. So now I'm off the trend. So I'm going to go with the under here in the Red River rivalry, just to maybe be a little bit smarter than everybody else, since that's my specialty. I'm sure I'll lose. I'm sure Dan's right, but I don't know. Both defenses do look good, but you're right. Red River rivalry. I mean, it's all about points.
Peter, you got any thoughts on this game?
Nah, I'm just curious to see if any team, the number one team in the country, can manage expectations. This is the third one in 3 weeks, and it's a lot of pressure, as we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, for my money, I just keep just staring at it, and I'm reading Twitter, and it's like, okay, so Deion Burks is out. Jaleel Farouk just got out of a boot. These are all wide receivers. Andrell Anthony just had a cleanup procedure in his knee. He feels really good, so he's returning to action maybe after getting his knee scoped. There's another person with soft tissue injury. Like at what point, like, do you just like not have enough like talent to compete? And I keep reading all that, and then I think like they probably just compete anyways because Texas will find a way to stub their toe. I mean, this is just I've loathed both of these teams for almost my entire life. I've watched this game for 30 years with my dad.
Who's your dad picking this? Who's your dad picking this game?
He can't see reason in these games. I mean, he's like an Oklahoma State fan, so like he just despises he probably despises Oklahoma slightly more than Texas, but not much. So
a lot of times what Nate's dad does is he listens to the show and then just takes whatever Nate, like the opposite of Nate. Like
yeah, and then he'll just tell me why I was wrong for like the next
and then
5 years.
He'll build a card based on all of Nate's picks, then he'll pick the other team, and then he'll text Nate whenever one of them loses or he wins, and he's like, that was a really stupid pick. So,
well, that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
In 5 years, I'll be.
That's
like,
why your father's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame, dude.
Is there any chance this is a trap game? I know it's the Red River rivalry, but they have Georgia next week. I don't know. It's just SEC is tough. And obviously I'm biased. I hate Texas and Oklahoma for leaving my Big 12.
All right. Well, we're about to reset. I think we got the gang back together for hour 2. We're about to reset. We're going to switch gears here. We're going to move away from college. We're going to shift our focus to the NFL and some more topics, break down some games. That's what you're here for probably, is to get some picks. So at the top of the hour, please come back and join us. Don't forget about us. In the meantime, maybe go ahead and click a follow on X, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Godzilla Wins Big. We will see you in just a few 30-second break here for all of us to catch up on a cup of coffee.
Don't forget hockey, Nate.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Welcome back to hour 2 of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We are here talking about the NFL. We've already covered college in the previous hour. Now we're moving to the NFL. We have so many games, so many topics to break down. I think we're just going to lead. I'm joined, as always, by Mitch Rogers, Peter Kriebel, Dan Angel, Jack Fredericks. John is probably refilling coffee and talking to himself about hockey. And we're just going to get in here and just talk a little bit about games. We sort of usually try and leave a few minutes open at the top of this hour for Peter Kriebel to just talk a little bit about whatever he's been monitoring in the NFL. Peter, tell people where they can find you on TikTok as well, because that TikTok is just, boy, is that blowing up.
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok at Pete Takes, doing game recaps, all 22 breakdowns, and every once in a while, a song parody or whatever else I come up with. But yeah, you can find me there. And then on Twitter, covering UVA football, also at Pete Takes.
All right. What have you been watching in the NFL this week?
Yeah, so this week, kind of keeping in line with some of the quarterback questions to answer. Last week was Sam Darnold. This one, Caleb Williams, obviously the number 1 overall pick and overshadowed by the number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels, getting a lot of attention. And so the Bears have won 2 straight. Caleb's stats look better. And so I figured, let's break it down. Am I ready to trust the Bears? And Caleb specifically. And so I watched all of his dropbacks of the past 2 weeks, and I came away with a kind of a mixed bag. And the first thing I would say is that physically, throwing the football looks good, particularly power throws, right? So maybe not talking about all the clubs in his bag, but just when you need to put it in a spot, when you need to put it on a line, Caleb can do that really, really well. We knew that coming in pretty much, but it's still good to see. Like, you know, I think I've seen enough just physically to rule out any bust conversation. The part that concerns me and why I'm not totally all in, and this is no long-term concern, but just right now, he still is not being decisive enough. He's passing up open receivers, particularly over the middle. If you think about kind of the end of Seattle era Russell Wilson, where, you know, he was intent on making the big play, and sometimes he would just the wide open 5-yard slant route. So Caleb's still doing some of that, and the numbers back it. Caleb wants to see his receiver open still. So a lot of times in the NFL, it's just anticipating. It's knowing that receiver is going to come open, but you can't always see it. And Caleb has the 3rd lowest tight window throw percentage. So he's not comfortable sometimes throwing the, box out curl route, which is in the NFL sometimes what you need to do. So again, physically, it's there, but I'm not ready to say that the Bears are that dark horse playoff team that maybe some people thought they were going to be coming into the year.
All right. Yeah, and we'll be talking more about Caleb Williams as they travel to London coming up here in a few minutes. But first, I want to before we start breaking down games, I think that we need to react to the earlier week game. I just am all in on Seattle Seahawks right now. I watch every game. I have a grotesque amount of futures bets on them. It's been pretty awful for my mental health lately. So I was pretty optimistic that they could go to San Francisco and put up a fight. They did not. They looked exactly like they have the last few weeks when they've looked terrible. They looked about like the same team that lost to the Giants. San Francisco looks like they found something, but I can't tell is San Francisco for real or does Seattle just sort of suck? I couldn't get a clear read of it after watching the game. I don't know who wants to jump in first on this.
It's tough to bet them right now with all these injuries. I mean, I looked at the game. I liked them on Thursday night, but half the team's out. So I mean, it's just tough betting the team on a row with half the players out. But it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, they just seem to find a way to win. You look at the game last week against Arizona. I mean, no way in God's green earth you lose that game, right? I mean, you're up big, you fumble twice, you're going in for a touchdown to ice the game, you fumble again. I mean, it was like it was an unbelievable. It was like a Tennessee Titans comedy of Will Levis errors at the end there. It was giving him the ball, so that kind of threw me for a loop. But when you can go to Seattle, I mean, you got to look at this team and say, half the team's out. They got injured. All you do is every time you open up a file, somebody else is hurt, right? All the people that were now playing in that game, I was like, I'm not going to lay 5.5 on the road with half the team. Then they go out and kick their butt. So who the hell knows? I mean, go figure this team. I can't do it.
I think a lot of it resides with Geno Smith. I mean, they were praising Geno Smith rolling into the game, and underneath on the crawl, they had his touchdown interception ratio, which was like 5-5. That's not good enough. And that's what he did in this game, too. 2 interceptions, 1 early, sets the tone. And it's fine. I mean, Geno Smith has the ability to take over a game, but he also has that ability. If you take the reins off him and let him throw all day long, he ultimately makes a mistake, or most of the time does. And that's what shoots him in the foot more than anything.
Yeah, they seem like a team Seattle seems like a team that's too confident in Geno. They feel like they have a good quarterback, and they feel like they want to turn him loose, and they do it at the expense of their run game, which is basically non-existent. And they have him throw the ball behind an offensive line, which is basically non-existent. And it just doesn't look like winning football. I mean, Peter, did you have any thoughts on Thursday night?
Yeah, I would say to the question of the Niners being, overrated, I think some of the discussion around this team has been overstated, whether it's pertaining to the injuries. I mean, out there was still Ayuk, Kittle, Samuel goes for a long touchdown. McCaffrey's not there, but Jordan Mason is running the football, I mean, as well as anyone pretty much in the league right now. It's hard to believe, but yeah, I would say the Niners are Niners, and Purdy is actually playing. It's a different brand of football, but it's higher level football. I was looking at the Caleb Williams for the tight window percentage, and Purdy is up like 12% in tight window percentage, up from 12 to 23, and so he's doing it a little bit more of what we'd say conventional quarterbacking, not having all the Kyle Shanahan silver platter plays, and so yeah, I think a lot of the same things that we've seen in the recent Seahawks-Niners matchups stayed true. It's the line of scrimmage for Seattle. Seattle losing the line of scrimmage battle and not being able to run the football. And yeah, like Purdy and the rest of the offensive weapons just get going, and they're still the class of that division.
Yeah, I mean, and the run game is still elite without Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Garendo goes 10 carries, 99 yards, 9.9 yards a carry. Jordan Mason goes 9 carries for 73 yards. That's 8.1 yards a carry. Like, the run game still functions really well without Christian McCaffrey. Like, they don't need Christian McCaffrey.
And it's not fair. And we can talk about all we want, but that being Mr. Irrelevant is gone. The 49ers have a top 5 quarterback in the league. That's what he's playing at right now. And I mean, even with his legs, I spoke about his legs last week. I mean, he is in total command of this offense. Makes every read. If he doesn't have he'll check down or he'll run. This offense is unfair when you have somebody you're not paying that much money and he's playing at that elite level. And that's why they can get away with the injuries and still be good.
Dan, I see a furrow brow over there.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is not playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. He's been one of the problems. Like he's not making great decisions with the football, and he just statistically hasn't been as good as he has on the past couple years. Like, I don't know. Like maybe he's trying to play a more advanced level of football, but right now it's not working.
Where's your defense, Nate? Where's your defense? I mean, they're supposed to have this great defense. Where's your defense?
Look, I don't know anything about defense when it comes to this game, but I mean, Mitch is always banging the drum for Purdy. He did this last year.
Purdy played well this game, but he didn't look good against the Cardinals. He didn't look good against New England. Didn't look good against Minnesota. I mean, he's had 2 good games on the 2 road division games. Otherwise, this has not been a good start to the season for him.
Yeah, this is just Mitch's brand. He just loves Purdy. He's always dropping these.
We'll see.
It's like,
the whole Clear thing.
Yeah, he'll be like, I think Brock Purdy.
Mitch, what do you do in this situation, by the way?
What's that?
What do you do in this situation with the Iowa State West Virginia unlikely alliance, the Cycloneer situation?
Yeah, I know. I don't know who to root for tonight. I root for them both equally. Yeah, that storyline with that game is fun tonight. Yeah, I don't know. But I do love Purdy. He is an elite quarterback. We'll watch it play out.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what the NFC West holds. I mean, it feels like San Francisco at some point will stop shooting themselves in the foot and just start to emerge. But right now, I mean, it's kind of all the divisions are weird. I've been wanting to do like a division segment for a while because there are so many sort of like you're like, that team is.
Well, why you guys throwing out the Cardinals? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Murray's playing it.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many divisions that you look at it and you're like, oh, pretty much 3 teams could win this.
Yeah,
I don't think you should throw the Cardinals out, because if you look at that game last week, okay, so San Francisco fumbles 2 times going in for touchdowns. Game was over either time they don't fumble. But Murray and that offense still had to get the ball and go down the field and score a touchdown, right? And against a pretty good defense. So, yeah, they fumbled twice. Yeah, they should have won the game. Yeah, it was kind of dumb. Yeah, it was Tennessee Titans stuff. But on the other hand, I mean, they got the ball and they went right down the field 2 times and scored 2 touchdowns and won a game. So you got to say to yourself, maybe this team is a little bit better than you think it is. Murray, seems to have matured, and everybody knew he always had the talent. I mean, he's got the legs, he's got the arm, he's got everything going for him. Now he's got a halfway decent O-line behind him. I would not count the Cardinals out in that
division. We need to roll the tape back an hour so that we can delete John's previous take about Kyler Murray at the beginning of the show.
Well, I mean, I'm a realist. I mean,
the thing is,
your realism has changed in an hour.
The thing is, though,
that is how realism works.
He doesn't watch a game tape. He's not my type of guy. But I mean, he got the football 2 times last week. They gave it to him. Here's the football. Both times he went down to win a game. You got to respect that, and you got to respect their offense and what they've done against a good San Francisco defense. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the guy's always had the talent. Maybe now he's getting a little mature. I don't know, but I would count him out.
Consistency aside, John does have a good point here, and Arizona's schedule is really manageable. I mean, they've got Carolina, New England, the Jets in there, Miami's corpse. Like, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real shot for
Kyler Murray, top 5 quarterback. Do it for the Sun Valley, baby.
Lord.
Let's go. Let's go.
Who knew the NFC?
All right, we're about
also the Seahawks played poorly, but they looked sweet. Those throwbacks are fire.
They are.
I love the throw. Well, that's the other thing. The throwback uniforms. It's like the old Jim Hart. Was it Jim Hart, Terry Metcalf days? But I tell you what, one thing, if you guys got to start taking this collagen. I take this 2 scoops a day. Man, I'm feeling great. Ann runs the company. I've never seen her look so good. It's like every week, every month she takes this, she gets younger. This is like an amazing thing. My whole company's on this thing. Jack's on it. Everybody's on it. I tell you what, my company, the parent company is run by women, right? There's a lot of estrogen going around this place. I'm just a figurehead. I take orders from a bunch of women. This thing is, I mean, they're all taking it. They had this women's challenge, collagen. What happens is it depletes out of your body, and then you got to replenish it back. Back in the day, you took bone broth, you ate steak and meat and beef stew or something, and it got back in. Not anymore with all this Frankenstein meat and all that crap they're doing with these corporate farms. This thing, collagen, is the best thing you're going to get. I'll tell you the other thing. It is so good for you. And in 2 weeks, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. Also, your joints, it's for bone enhancement. You're just going to feel better. You're going to look better. You're going to get a glow. And the thing is, I can give you 45% off. It's $21 for a month. I mean, try going to Starbucks every day for a month and you'll spend $21 a day. It's at $21 for the month. If you order 6 of these, go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. No promo code. Just put in /Godzilla. Getnativepath.com/Godzilla. And immediately you're going to get 45% off, $21 for one of these. You take it for 2 weeks, you're going to feel better. They're good for a month. Put 2 scoops a day in. I just put it in my coffee. Just put it right now in my Astros cup. Baseball season's over. Just put it right in here. 2 scoops a day. You are good to go. Guaranteed to feel better. Everybody that we turn on to this, nobody is not ordering a re-up. That's because it's work and people spend money they can't do. So stop wasting your money on those Whizzle sticks at Starbucks, whatever they have, cappuccinos, and just get a cup. Get a cup of coffee, old style coffee, container coffee. Put your collagen in it. Put a little cream in it. You're gonna feel great. Just go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Getnativepath.com/Godzilla. For you women out there, this is, and I know we have a big female audience on the show. Go figure. This thing, Ann's been taking it. Everybody in my company's been taking it. You're going to feel great. You're going to look better. Look, I'm even growing some hair back. Oddly enough, right? It's magic potion. Godzilla.com. I'm sorry. Go to nativepath.com. I even made myself laugh. What did I say? nativepath.com/Godzilla. No, yes, Godzilla. Forget it. You know how to get it.
www.nativepath.com/Godzilla. You use that / you scroll down and it'll pop up and ask you if you want to take advantage of the offer, and you can do that. There is nothing in the Native Path literature that says it will help you grow your hair back.
Yeah, but look at me.
Good product.
Look, I got all kinds of hair going here.
Okay. So we got some games to break down. We're just doing game now. We are just going to be knocking these down as quick as I can put them up. We're going to lead with the early game. We have another London game. I think this is the second of 3 in a row that we're going to have that are international games, at least. I think the next one might be in Germany. Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Peterson saved his job for one more week. They managed to win against the Colts. They've always played well against the Colts recently, so that's that. The seal has been broken, obviously, on coaching changes, so Doug Peterson shouldn't get too comfortable. It could come if he loses to Chicago in devastating fashion. Right now, the Bears are a -1 point favorite, so this is basically a coin flip game in the eyes of the sports book. Chicago comes in 3-2. Jacksonville obviously comes in 1-4. Trevor Lawrence has looked horrible this season. Chicago's defense has actually looked pretty decent. We've talked about Caleb Williams looking okay. I guess we'll just go around the horn. I'll lead with Mitch here. I mean, how do we bet the Jaguars versus the Bears to try and get a little money to work with for the rest of the day?
One of my locks of the week. I love the Bears in this game, and this is going to be my Woody Johnson game because Jacksonville might have the same fate. Doug Peterson may have the same fate that we just saw happen to the Jets here after this game. I like just Peter's breakdown of Caleb Williams, and I understand Jaden Daniels and his quick start to the NFL, but I mean, it's natural if it takes a couple weeks or maybe a season. So it's nice to see Caleb progressing, and DJ Moore is going to benefit from that in this game, especially. So I'm heavy, like 3 units heavy on the Bears.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we got a lot of Bears love. I know where Jack's at because we talked about it already. So I'll allow your rebuttal now, Jack.
Well, you're going to have to wait until after the show. Remember to follow us on social, YouTube, X, Facebook, TikTok at Godzilla Wins Big. And after the show, we'll post our best bets, in which case I have a take here for you for the Jaguars-Bears game. But in a way around that take, I'll also say that I know Trevor Lawrence has been awful. I know the Bears defense looks pretty good, but maybe I like Trevor Lawrence over 258.5 passing yards. I just love the Jacksonville Jags London magic. They just play better in London. Maybe they're turning the ship around them. Like the Bears defense isn't like just winning every game for them. So I kind of like that bet, but you'll have to wait for my take on the game. You'll have to go to our social media, give us a follow, and that'll be posted as soon as the show ends here at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Peter, what are you looking for in this game?
Yeah, it's 2 teams I just don't trust yet, and the one stabilizing force is London. And the Jaguars, which have not been a historically good team, have overperformed across the pond. Trevor Lawrence, 3-1. I remember they shocked the Bills last year in London. So it's kind of a gut feeling, right? It's not a real nitty-gritty matchup-based prediction. It's just there's something about them knowing what to do going overseas.
Who wants to jump in next?
Well, I mean, Doug Peterson can't get fired this week because the Jaguars are in London next week too. So,
Oh, it'd be so cool.
Just a lonely plane ride home.
Like they're not going to change coaches in between the second international game because they had a regularly scheduled, like, I'm not sure which one of these counts as the home game and which one counts as the away game. Okay, this week Jacksonville is technically the visiting team. Next week is their scheduled London home game. But yeah, Jacksonville's not going to get rid of Peterson this week.
It could be the start. It could be the start of the next HBO Max show. Like he gets fired, he stays in London forever, and then takes over a soccer team.
That's right.
Oh my God!
I love the idea of Doug Peterson getting fired and then just taking a little soulful trip across the channel and just having a little week in Paris to himself. Eat some.
He just keeps his visor on the whole time and his Jacksonville jersey the whole time, just like that Disney movie that was about who was Sean Payton.
Oh my God!
Team gear on the flight.
Crystal Palace doesn't have a win yet. If Doug Peterson gets fired, Crystal Palace could bring him in.
I love Crystal Palace.
That Lasso moment.
Oh my God!
John,
but I do think
so.
that what in the world?
You may never figure that out, so we'll just keep
Yeah,
going.
the light really hit it weird. Okay, I'll see if I can fix this.
I'm sure John will get unmuted at some point and interrupt whatever conversation we have coming up. But we'll just keep keep going.
Al just muted my mic. I think he had enough. Thanks, Al, for that.
No, that didn't work either. All right.
Now, look,
my video off first.
I like Jacksonville next week because they get a week to stay there. Somebody else has to fly there. I think that's a tremendous advantage NFL's giving them. But I just like the Bears in this game. Their defense, their overall play. I mean, Jacksonville just is not – whatever's going on with them, it's not a good thing. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't been good. The defense hasn't been good. They did steal a game last week that they almost got beat. So I like the Bears here, minus the 1.5 in London.
All right. Next up, we got – okay, so now we're just going to the early slate of games, the traditionally early slate of games. Now we've crossed the line off the London game. Next up, I want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals, who look surprisingly sort of plucky. The Green Bay Packers, who are, sort of maintaining things, as Jordan Love sort of rounds back into form after the early injury. Green Bay is a pretty big favorite in this game. 5.5-point favorite. Tough to travel to Green Bay. Arizona, obviously, a 5.5-point dog. Coming off a pretty big road upset. This is like a natural sort of letdown spot for the Cardinals, I think. Line's in a weird spot. 5.5 is pretty much a dead zone where there's not really much value until it starts to creep down to kind of 4-ish or creep up to 6-ish. Nobody really likes betting a 5.5-point line. What I guess what are we going to bet here?
I do. I'm going to take the 5.5. If it was December 12th, I'd like the Packers. It's October 12th. It's not particularly cold. And you look at that Cardinals team, like they're just a bunch of crazy people out there. They're having fun. I like teams that are having fun. They're having fun. And they did Kyler. I'm not a fan, but he's throwing a football around. He's doing a thing, drawing up plays in the dirt. He's doing what he does. And it's a fun team to watch. The Cardinals are a fun team to watch. So I think they go in there. I think this is going to be a very competitive game. I like the wood.
I'm not so sure that – I mean, this feels like this is such a John move. Like he watches one Arizona game. It's obvious that game was like
primetime game
on Fox, and he was able to watch it. So now he actually knows something about the Cardinals and they covered for him because he definitely took them last week. And now he's like, the Cardinals always cover. They never fail for me. And so he's just taking the 5.5 because now he loves Kyler Murray or whatever. I think both defenses here suck, and so I like the over at 49.5. Also, and this is maybe I'm wrong. I'm notoriously not a time zone guy. I'm just not good at understanding what time it is in other places. You would think.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Yeah, it's true. So why are Green Bay is not in Eastern time zone. Maybe it's a Central time zone. I guess it's a Central time zone. I never see Green Bay playing an early game at home. Maybe I'm just wrong, but this feels like a weird game to be played like for a 1:00 game, unless it's just the fact that there's a bunch of buys and they just need some early games. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Packers are always playing it at 1 Eastern. But this just, I don't know. This felt like a really weird situation. It's not like Arizona's traveling to Pittsburgh this week.
Well, but New Orleans also plays in the Central Time Zone, and they also play early window games. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, I just feel like in my heart, the Packers are always playing at 4:00.
The Packers are kind of hit or miss with when they play. I mean, they play at 4:00 more often than they should because Green Bay has such a national following, so that's more the reason. But they've played a few games in the early window. Let's see, looking at their,
I would argue on Twitch, Kyler Murray has a worldwide following, so he should be playing.
Counting this,
It's true.
So yeah, and all of us talking about Kyler Murray secured the bag because now he's the face of Call of Duty, and he's getting a ton of money, and he's getting all the upgrade points he wants for the rest of his life to be able to continue his quest.
That substitutes for his time in the film room, right? Because that's kind of a film, right?
I mean,
so he just says, "I don't need to go to film room. I got this game out there. I just play that."
Anyway, on the time zone thing, out of Green Bay's first 8 games, 6 of them were 1:00 starts, and the other 2 were at Los Angeles and a national TV game in Brazil.
Well,
don't you hate it when he stats us?
Man, he just blew you up, Jack.
Like 1:00.
That is like the Zook. I mean, he just blew you smithereens.
Just immune to reason.
There's capital T truth, and then there's the truth I know in my heart, which is that the 1 or 2 times I've ever paid attention to the Packers schedule, they've played at 4:00 or later. So I mean, there's 2 types of truth here. And
as Nickel Creek said, the truth is a bitter friend.
Yeah,
Brett Favre
I don't know why I
Shannon
hijacked
Sharp.
the segment to talk about time zones, but we can get back to football.
As far as my pick goes, Arizona can't stop the run. Green Bay pounds it down the Cardinals' throat all day.
Anybody else have a pick?
Yeah, I like the over with Jack. I like Green Bay. I don't know if they'll cover the 5.5. I'm not confident with that, but I do like the over here.
I would say John raised an interesting point about picking them in December. And I think what the sportsbook is trying to do is just predict when the click is coming for this Green Bay team, because I think it is. Like, quietly, you've seen everything you would want to outside of the Jordan Love injury. It's Love being aggressive and decisive and showing that he was deserving of that contract. The Packers being able to run the ball consistently. The Floors offense still, I mean, he can win with anyone in there, but particularly the defense up to 7th in EPA per play, which is outperforming everything in the Joe Barry era. So the Packers coming into this year were a dark horse Super Bowl team, and at some point you got to figure they're going to put it together.
All right. So, yeah, I think that I don't know how I feel about this game. I think I'll probably lay off this game personally myself. Just too many unknowns. I'm not really ready to buy into the Cardinals like actually being good. I think that they're at times frisky, particularly in divisional matchups, but I'm not really willing to put my hard-earned dollars on them traveling to Green Bay. We have another exciting team, another up-and-coming sort of frisky team to talk about. Washington Commanders are 4-1.
Wow.
And they are a 6.5-point underdog this week to the 3-2 Baltimore Ravens. We're going to lead with Peter here because I know that he's got thoughts on it. I think that we thought Washington might be decent with Jaden Daniels if they could string some pieces together. I think that they've exceeded almost everyone's wildest expectations, unless you live deep in the heart of Washington, D.C., and have never watched any other football team other than the Commanders, and that's all you think about. I guess, like, what? How are you looking at this game, Peter?
This is the comeback to earth game for the Commanders. It's been fun. It's been exciting. We know Cliff Kingsbury offenses have an expiration date, but they haven't played a defense quite like the Ravens. And I mean, the Browns, you could argue, have the talent, but I think some of the savvy defensive veterans, whether it's Kyle Hamilton or Kyle Van Noy, I guess everyone's name is Kyle for some reason, but when you're throwing the ball that quick, right? Because Jaden Daniels towards the top of the league and time to throw, there's only so much you can do. And 5 games of tape right now, the impending phenomenon is just going to be, at some point, there's a predictability that comes with that. And you have a Ravens defense that's, shown that they're opportunistic. They forced turnovers at a pretty high rate this year. And we know what they do against the NFC. They're playing at home. And I just don't think that the Commanders' defense has shown that they're going to be able to stop the Derrick Henry running game and then everything that the Ravens do off of that. So I think this is a pretty concrete victory for the Ravens at home.
You're pretty confident in a defense that had to go out and hire Dean Pease to secure the secondary. That's one of the worst in the NFL.
Joe Burrow's
and facing one of the hottest. I know Jaden Daniels, and that the game tape might catch up to them, but what Washington has lacked, I mean, they have so much talent at the wide receiver position and running back. I mean, that Jaden Daniels, that they're finally getting their due because Jaden is, picking it up and being able to throw. So I think that the Redskins will be able, or the Commanders will be able to throw all day long. Now, are they going to be able to stop Derrick Henry? I take the over all day in this game. I don't think the Ravens defense is going to do anything to stop the Commanders.
I would push back on the Commanders having so many weapons. I think Terry McLaurin is good. I'm happy to see De'Ami Brown is coming into form a little bit, but we're talking about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase that gave us trouble. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I get that, Terry McLaurin's a good player and Jaden Daniels has done his thing, but I don't think that this is the same nuanced passing game that's given the Ravens trouble. I think there's enough on tape, and the Ravens have the personnel to match up.
I'm going with Mitch Rogers here, Mitch. I think you're spot on. Number one, you're going to have a huge letdown after that win. And in the Cincinnati game, that they shouldn't have won that game. I bet Baltimore, I already counted it as an L. I mean, that guy on the Bengals, when's the last time this guy missed a 42-yard field goal? Like in high school? Guy never misses. I mean, and then they couldn't stop him. I mean, they get a touchdown. Burrows gets the ball, goes right down the field, gets a touchdown. Neither of these teams has any kind of defense I can see. And if you're Washington, it's like, what? Here's my question: why not? Why not Washington? Everything that's gone wrong with this franchise. I mean, you look at it, such in a sorry state, front office, all this stuff, people getting fired, new ownership. It's been a disaster. Then last season they get rid of Sweat, some of their best players, and now they're 4-1 and they're winning games. They're having fun. This is a trap game. I'm getting 6.5. I'm taking Washington all day long.
The other thing
I think they win the whole game.
The other thing to consider, the Jaden Daniels shock factor that maybe teams have been met with. The Ravens defense plays Lamar Jackson in practice every day, and Jaden Daniels wishes.
Here's the thing too with this. So I want to take the Ravens in the first half to cover because I can't trust the Ravens. This is such a spot for the Ravens to just totally implode in the fourth quarter and make Peter's life hell. Like, this is like the game that happens where it's like they jump up by 17 and then just completely implode and like lose the game on a fumble on the 1 yard line in fourth quarter, 1 second to go or whatever. That's like how the Ravens lose games like this to the Commanders. So I kind of like him in the first half as a fast start, but I lean with Peter here just overall with the Ravens. The Commanders are not the Ravens, and I think this would be 13.5 if the Commanders were like 2-2, to be honest with you. So I'm okay laying the 6.5 here.
In Cincinnati, Cleveland, the Giants, and Arizona, I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. I'm with Peter here. I think the Ravens, so I'm roll this one.
I knew that I was going to jump in and steal Dan's thunder with talking about the teams they've beat, which is why I let Dan go first there, because it is worth noting that the Commanders have won 4 games. Those teams are combined 6-14. You can only beat who's in front of you. I get that. But they have not beaten these are teams that we thought would be good, but they have not played well. Like the Bengals we thought would be good. It looks like a good win if you haven't been paying attention to what the Bengals have been. But the Bengals aren't good. They beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals aren't that great, They beat the Browns. We thought the Browns would be good, but the Browns have sucked. These are teams that we thought would be better, but they haven't been. they just haven't been winning. So, these Commanders wins have come against teams that have really struggled to open the season that we thought sort of had higher expectations for than maybe.
Yeah, but they got the W. I mean, they got the W's. You guys are overanalyzing this. They got a quarterback that's gone crazy. This guy looks unstoppable, and I mean, there's no pressure on this team. I think they win the whole game. This is such a classic letdown here for the Ravens. They're going to break your heart. They're going to break your heart every single week.
The more Dad talks, the more money I'm putting on the Ravens. I mean, like he's not making
I've already got it on the Ravens. Yeah,
like we're going head to head. We're going head to head.
These guys are like
it's
man. There's no
John
letdown games.
John
Like,
Gut versus Peter's analysis. I'm going with Peter here.
yeah, I'm taking the Ravens.
I like the regional rivalry though. It's going to be fun around that Beltway, up in Baltimore and
Sure.
All right, so let's just get this out. This is like a game where we all got different teams. Let's just get it out. Just so we can get on the record. Nate, 6.5. Who you got?
Baltimore.
Mitch.
Commanders.
Peter.
Comfortably Baltimore.
John. Redskins. Jack.
Ravens play it up to -9.
Dan.
Ooh.
Baltimore.
We'll see, right?
I like the over though. I like the over.
Two of us like the command.
So it wasn't quite that much of
over
an
and under
even
in this.
split. It was 4-2 if we were voting on this.
4-2. It's
that
almost
is
3-3.
That's a super majority.
We get
Those
shirts
places.
made called 4-2. What do you think, John? I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Yeah, right.
Especially
Yeah.
when we kick their butt.
Yeah.
Especially when Washington wins the whole game. Nate, Mitch, be sure to mention this next week so I don't
will.
forget.
Money line.
We'll get you
money
guys
line
shirts
Commanders.
that read "vocal minority." Okay.
And he can use them in so many ways.
Hey guys, I tell you what though, win or lose, I'm going to be feeling super great because of Healthy Cell. Now you got the REM sleep going, but look, you got to, especially as you get a little long in the tooth, like me. I guess I'm the oldest one here. Mitch,
Yeah.
what are you, an extra, right?
Yeah,
I'm an extra. Yep.
Think
47.
about this panel we got. I'm a boomer. Mitch is an Xer. Nate and Jack are and Dan are the millennials, and then we got the Zoomer, which is Peter. So we got the whole gamut here. I mean, what other show has this? We got Zoomer, millennials, Xer, and Boomer.
From
I mean, what a
MySpace to
panel.
TikTok, baby. Let's go.
I know.
That's right.
What
Look,
a
Dad,
panel.
can you do the live read, please?
Yeah. So Healthy Cell. I love my health. So go to healthycell.com. Healthycell.com. The joint and mobility, man, I'm feeling going to do my push-ups every day again. I was out for a while with my back because I didn't have them in Cape Cod. So, I had to have them ship them to me direct. Just go, if you got aches and pains, the thing that you want to do is Healthy Cell joint and mobility. Jack takes up while he's working out every day. Look how good he looks, man. He looks like fantastic. That all you got to do is go to healthycell.com, healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla, get 20% off. You get aches and pains. You used to take a leave every day. I used to have Advil all over the place. Forget it, man. Just go to healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla, get your joint and mobility. Now, it's going to take 2 weeks. It's not instant like REM sleep. It took me 2 weeks, took Ann about 10 days, took Jack about 2.5 weeks. Going to take you about 2 weeks. Take it every day. Those aches and pains are going to go away. And you're going to get rid of the Aleve. You're going to get rid of the Advil. The money you're spending on that stuff, you're going to end up saving with Healthy Cell. It's all natural and you feel better. Healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla, get 20% off. Try it for a couple months. If you don't feel better, okay, no harm done. Guaranteed you will. Healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla, 20% off.
All right. Some people might need Healthy Cell after recovering from a game in Vegas. That party's going to be great the night after. Okay, so we got Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to lead with Mitch here in a second, but I'll just set the table for us. Steelers are coming in. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Colts. They lost to the Cowboys. No shame in either of those losses. I don't think. It was a little bit of a slowdown. It looks like Mike Tomlin is still continuing to be a coward, and he says he thinks that Russell Wilson will probably be the number 2 quarterback. But no word on whether Fields is on a short hook or not. They're playing the Raiders. The Raiders have not looked great. They jumped up and had a good win against Baltimore. They've had some pretty bad losses as well, Carolina and Denver, that weren't even really that close. So I don't know what to make of either of these teams. They played so inconsistently, both of them. Mitch, is this one going to hurt after the game on Sunday?
It seems like every time they play the Raiders, doesn't matter if the Steelers are an elite team or they are what they are now, the Raiders always give them trouble. I don't care if it's Aiden O'Connell. I don't care what's going on over there with Devontae Adams and so forth. So yeah, it'll be a tough game anytime they travel and go on the road. And it's hard to put your finger on this team. I say that at the same time, it's not very hard. I mean, they're the same kind of team. They're one play away in each game from winning or losing. The optimist could say, hey, they're 2 plays away from being undefeated. And that's kind of true, but they're also a few plays away in the games that they won where they could have lost those. Every game, it just hinges on the turnover battle, one play here or there, because they just don't have the elite talent on offense to really get it going. I think Fields is progressing. I think if there was a second receiver that was capable, they'd be able to really show off this offense a little bit. But the offensive line has been decimated. They still have a competent offensive line, but they're reshuffling. And the running back position, losing their running back depth was crazy. So I don't know what to make of this team. It's going to be the same game every week, one score here or there. I think they pull it off, with their back against the wall a little bit. I think Fields would show a lot more progression with some talent at the wide receiver position. He just doesn't have it. And the defense is elite, but in this NFL, elite defenses can get picked apart every once in a while. You have to be able to score to help them out, and that's what's happening here. And if the Steelers score 15 to 18 points a game, they're going to end up, right around 500.
Mitch, come on, you lose a couple games and you're all down in the mouth. Come on, man.
They're just what they are. One player.
They're a really good team. I mean, once again, Tomlin mismanages the clock like he's been doing for 10 years. There's nothing new there. As soon as they get the ball with a minute and a half to go, they're going to lose because Tomlin will not call the right timeout. They'll let too much time go off. It's what he's been doing for a decade, so it's almost, laughable. I love Pittsburgh in this game. They're just a better team. The Raiders are imploding. They're terrible. And I don't care if it's in Vegas or Hawaii or China. I mean, Pittsburgh's a better team. They're going to go out there. They're going to win this game. It's not going to be close. They got a really great defense. And remember, before these 2 tough losses, people were thinking about they were going to win the division. They had a shot to maybe, get further than that. They lose a couple tough games. No big deal. Fields is getting better every week. I like the Steelers.
I mean, the good news for the Steelers is they're catching the Raiders in a moment where their organization seems to be disintegrating in real time. They have a quarterback controversy between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, which is never great. It looks like Devontae Adams maybe isn't probably going to play until he gets traded. He'll probably keep milking this injury for as long as it takes. I mean, the Raiders are a disaster. So this is a great time to take a trip to Vegas if there was a good time. Dan, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Under. Under. Pittsburgh's defense is really legit. I don't trust either quarterback for the Raiders. The Raiders are better on the defensive side of the football than they are on offense. So I'm not expecting much in the way of fireworks here. I think this is going to be a fairly low scoring game.
Peter.
Yeah, Raiders have the worst or least efficient rushing attack in the NFL, and DJ Glaze is a rookie right tackle playing against TJ Watt, and that's all I need to know. So give me the Steelers.
Yeah.
Anybody else have thoughts on this game?
TJ Watt over whatever his sack prop is. I think that
Yes.
if he doesn't get hurt, I think he's eating today for sure. And then also under. I mean, the Steelers, I think the over is hit once this year. It's not automatic, but it's pretty close. I mean, you just keep taking them until they list the line at 28.5, and then you take the over or whatever. So just keep taking the under here.
It sounds like
I
DJ
mean, I wish there was a
should
prop
be.
where I could just bet like do more than one person attempt to pass for the Raiders, because I feel like probably both quarterbacks see time.
There might be that prop somewhere.
Yeah,
might be.
it's got to be available somewhere.
Yeah.
Take this prop. DJ Glaze will be the name of all my fantasy football teams. Book it.
The Steelers are going to win this game.
We are going now to the Lone Star State. We are going to discuss a team that was formerly near and dear to my heart, although I'm starting to move away from them as the months and years pass. The Dallas Cowboys are a 3-point underdog. What?
Why
Welcome
you
to the
down
dark
on that?
side.
Why you down in the Cowboys
the
after
dark
that big win? After that big win at 2 a.m.
The dark-
I tell
No,
you
I'm
what,
just,
that
I'm just,
last.
I'm just
What
all
about?
in on South Texas teams now. I'm a Texans guy through and through. My dad got me some gear.
Never
My
mind.
fiance's got some
I was
gear.
gonna say the dark side is when you have a heart of neutrality and just focus on your bets.
No,
Okay, look.
I just switched. I'm just hard pivoting.
Fair.
I mean, and
Fair.
also I've always had the
So
heart.
much
I've
for
always had the
loyalty.
neutral heart.
What do you do? Tell me
I-
tomorrow you're a Tampa Bay Rays fan or something. Come on, man, you got to stick
Maybe if I
with your
move to
team.
Florida after they rebuild.
Fourth and four,
rebuild it.
fourth and goal. What was that game? 2 a.m. I was in bed. I saw the replay. Fourth and goal
Ugh.
on the 4-yard line, right? Fourth and goal. And the way they executed that pick play, I must have watched that 5 times. I couldn't get enough of seeing that. What a great play. What a great play call. 4th and 4. Game on the 20
Oh
seconds.
yeah,
right?
yeah. You call the hold it. You said, "Hey, let's hold T.J. Watt and do an illegal pick play across the middle of the field." Sweet,
Oh, come
great
on. It
play.
wasn't illegal. It was a
Great play.
Dad, what down was it?
It was 4th and 4.
Was
Fourth
it
and
4th and
goal.
4 or 4th and goal?
Fourth and goal.
Yeah,
Right?
on that.
That's what I meant. 4th and goal. 20 seconds ago, the game was there. I mean, the game was there for the Steelers to win. At home was like 1 or 2 a.m. because of the lightning delay and the rain and all that. And it was just a great play call. And all the Steelers got to do is stop them. They win the game. But I just thought that was a great play. I don't know enough about NFL rules if that pick was illegal, but it was illegal or not. It was perfectly run. And so I bet the Steelers. So I went down the tubes because I think I laid 3 and they were up by 4 or something. I laid 2.5. I don't remember. But if they stopped them, I win the bet. I didn't. But I still thought, Dak, what a great play. And they came down and field and won the game.
Sometimes this show just dissolves into your solipsistic, like,
It does.
like
John watched
yeah,
one
just-
game and he's got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah,
Sometimes we
just
do
like
that.
solipsism of John Fredericks. Let's talk about the Lions Cowboys.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and get out in front of everybody. This is, if I'm giving out locks of the week, book the Lions. -3, no problem. This is 100% the moment where the Cowboys fall flat on their face. Coming off what looks like a pretty decent win. They won 2 in a row. Everyone's thinking maybe they got the ship righted in Dallas. This is 100% the moment where the entire country will be watching this game at 3:25 Eastern time, and Dallas just goes out and lays an egg to a really good Detroit team. And it's just not even probably close. This is the game where they just get cleaned out from the beginning. Somebody tell me I'm right or wrong.
Nah, Lions -3, baby.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean, I've heard a rumor that Mike McCarthy wants to petition to move this game to Michigan because Dallas can't play at home. Like, seriously, the last time the Cowboys actually won a game in North Texas was last year against the Lions by a point. They've gone 0-3 in the Metroplex, and they're 4-0 on the road. So I just don't see this Dallas defense doing much of anything against Detroit. Only Carolina, the Rams, and Arizona have allowed more points than Dallas among NFC teams this year. So, yeah, the Lions should cover this 3.
Yeah, the Detroit's run game is going to, run wild all over them. The Steelers didn't get to exploit that with their offensive line and Jalen Warren and Cordell Patterson being hurt. But the Detroit's a different beast when it comes to that run game. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Dallas Cowboys implode and take Detroit all day.
Yeah, if you don't like betting Detroit, I think that David Montgomery props. I think he's ready to eat against Dallas in this game. I think over rushing props are solid. I think anytime touchdown props are solid for David Montgomery. Peter, you got thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this one feels like a shootout. I'm totally certain that the Lions are going to put up points. Particularly because they force teams into base defense and then carve them up. The Cowboys like base defense. They run it more than anyone, and they're one of the worst teams at it. So just from a schematic perspective, it's a really good lineup matchup for the Lions. But on the other side of things, the Cowboys are just playing Dak ball, and it's kind of working. They have, 82 rushing yards per game. That's 31st in the NFL, and saying, Dak, go out and do it. And the Lions have shown that passing defense isn't anything special. Run a lot of man coverage, matching up against CeeDee Lamb. I like this one as a barn burner, a shootout, and maybe the Lions get justice for last year's Dan Skipper fiasco.
John, do you want to give us a pick for the game after you talked about last week's game?
I've never bet an over under in my life ever, and I'm not going to start now. But if I were to bet it, I'd bet the over. I'm not going to bet this game because I'm just going to enjoy watching it. I really don't know, how good or bad Dallas is. No one really knows week to week what the hell they're doing. But if I was ever going to bet an over under, I would just, was it 52.5? I mean, there's probably going to be like 90 touchdowns scored back and forth. But the last time I bet the over, whatever the game was, it was scoreless at the half. So no, I'm not going to do that. So I just don't do that. But I have no pick in this game.
Jack, can we get confirmation on whether or not John bets totals in sports?
I mean, no, he doesn't do it that often. He does do it. He says things like, "I've never done this in my life," and whenever he says that, he's done it at least 10 times. That's just.
But I did it. I did it one time early in the week. I bet.
But he also
I don't do it in football. I did it in hockey.
You do it more frequently than you say you do. And the other thing you are always talking about is how you don't know how parlays work and props and stuff like that. And you also bet those sometimes. So you basically just come on here and just say stuff that is just like,
I never bet a prop in my life.
That's not true. That's not true. And the parlay thing isn't true either. I have the receipts. I know what you're doing.
We recently did an internal audit.
Yeah, what he means is he's never won a prop bet. He's never won.
So what happened?
Change it. Try.
Here's the mistake. Here's the fundamental mistake I made. Right? I guess I can say.
Well, no, let's not go there. Let's move on to the other game. Let's not talk about that.
All right, so we got Bengals Giants coming up. That's a Sunday night game. The Bengals are 1-4. Joe Burrow has looked excellent. The defense has looked atrocious. The Giants have looked relatively, sort of like they can upset a team every once in a while. Maybe Danny Dimes has performed better than we thought he maybe would, better than last year's sort of atrocious stats anyways. The Bengals look like they're poised to sort of win some games. They're a 3.5-point favorite in this game. I kind of like the Bengals here. There are parts of me that still can't shake some of my old biases. One of them are that I hate the Giants. Even though I'm moving away from the Cowboys, I still have a lot of thoughts on the NFC East at large, and the Giants are just a team that I just cannot get behind right now. This feels like a game that the Bengals, they'll rip off a few wins. Everyone will say, "Ooh, maybe the Bengals will sneak into, a playoff spot." Does anybody else? Peter, I know that you're always thinking about the Bengals. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think we know what the Bengals are, and they're a high-scoring offense and a horrible defense. And if you want to beat them, you have to score with them. And just so happened that last week, the future 3-time MVP, Lamar Jackson, outplayed Joe Burrow. Daniel Jones, and it's another one where, just like against the Panthers, you feel like the Bengals are going to get maybe not back on track, but win a game they should. They're more talented than the Panthers and more talented than the Giants. And this is one where, I trust Cincinnati to get it done.
I think the fact that the spread is I think plus 3.5, maybe I'm looking at the wrong line.
Yes,
you're looking at it right.
To me, plus 3.5. To me, I just think this is one of those things where you get a gift because you catch the Bengals at the point in the season where everybody thinks they suck. And maybe they aren't that good, but they're better than a 3.5-point favorite against the New York Giants, who are just a dumpster fire. I thought this would be -6, minus 5.5, whatever. Not minus 3.5. So I'll take the 3.5 here. I know the Giants. I mean, they covered for me a couple of weeks ago in a game, but I like the minus 3.5 here. The Bengals are not. They're just a better team than the Giants are, and we're catching this at sort of public sentiment. And I think a lot of people are going to be baited into taking the Giants because they're going to think the Bengals suck, and it might be true, but they can cover against a pretty weak Giants team.
Well, the Bengals do suck, but the Giants suck more, and they have the Bengals have no defense whatsoever, zero. I've been saying it for weeks. But if you're going to try to bet on Danny Dimes, who the hell knows where this guy's going to throw the ball? So I'm going to go ahead and go with Jack here with the Bengals have to win this game. The season's basically toast. I mean, they got to beat the Giants. So I'll go with the Bengals here.
I mean, we're calling him Danny Dimes, but I mean, maybe Daylight Danny is a better name for him because he's 1-13 in primetime. I mean,
Yes.
Andy Dalton picked up the nickname Afternoon Andy because of his failures in primetime, and Daniel Jones is the same way. So yeah, I'm absolutely fading Daylight Danny.
Would you call him Danny Daylight?
Daylight Danny.
That's pretty
Daylight
good.
Danny. That's pretty funny, Dan. Daylight Danny instead of Danny Dimes.
I have a moment here and there. I'm not just a stat heavy robot.
Hey, when are we going to talk about the Falcons and the Dirty Birds are back? Aren't you guys fired up?
We're
Jack,
not
aren't
going
you
to talk
fired
about
up?
that.
Unfortunately, we don't have time, John, because we have a schedule to keep, and it is
go
not
ahead.
on the schedule. And we have
All right.
exactly
Sorry.
3.5 minutes left. We got to talk about the Bills Jets, and that's our last game on the card. And then we got to talk about Jay's new Jay show coming up, and we have all sorts of stuff to talk about. Atlanta Falcons and hockey got the Knicks. Buffalo Bills are -2.5. They're taking on the Jets in New Jersey at MetLife Stadium. Jets are 2.5-point underdog. Do we love the Bills here? I mean, do the Jets even have any life?
The Jets have won this matchup the last 2 years in New Jersey, so I'm hesitant. I do think Buffalo finally breaks that streak, but I'm not confident.
I'm going with the Jets, baby. Fire the coach.
Life.
Moving on from the Saleh era. This is like exactly what Aaron Rodgers wanted. Maybe he comes back reinvigorated and puts up 35 points because he doesn't have anyone else to blame except whatever is going on inside of Aaron Rodgers, which is, I think, dark and scary. And at some point, he's going to have to start to understand what it is that makes Aaron Rodgers, because you can't blame everyone for everything. It's just not everyone's fault when your team sucks. And this is like classic Bills to just like lose this game. So I'm taking the Jets here, baby, +2.5. I wish it were a little bit more. I think that's a pretty short spread, but I'll take the +2.5. Why not? Let's ride with the Jets in Meadowland.
This is the revenge of Jimmy Hoffa. Jets win this whole game. Aaron Rodgers takes complete control of the team. It's his team to win or lose. I'm going with the Jets.
Jimmy Hoffa, was he killed by a Bills fan or something?
No, he's buried
under the stadium.
I know, he's buried under the stadium. He's buried.
I know, but I always associated
him
him more with the Giants.
No, he's buried under the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Wasn't he buried under the old
Pops
stadium?
up every so often.
Peter, what are you liking this game?
His ghost is still there.
I look at it and I say the interim head coach bump is real. The thing that concerns me is we saw two very different outcomes in Bills versus Jets last year. There was the great Monday night game where the Jets kept it close and actually ended up winning. And the biggest difference in those games was in that game, it was all Josh Allen ball. They threw the ball over 60% of the time, and that's playing right into the Jets' strength. And then the Bills beat them by 24 later in the season, and that was all through the running game. And that's been the weakness of the Jets, but I don't know. I'm not totally out on the Jets. I want them to be good just for the storyline, and I think that interim head coach bump is real. And Aaron Rodgers, maybe he comes to town for the first time this year.
Mitch, give me a quick pick to take us out here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, I just have to go with the Bills on this one, but I just want like Bill Belichick to just like show up as the coach for the Jets. If that could happen, I mean, I think that's in the works. But I'm going with the Bills here. It's tempting to go Jets. The spread seems ridiculously low, but I'm going to go with the Bills. I'm going to take the bait.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the show. If you like sports, you got Golf with Jay Delsing coming up next, a frequent guest on the show, doing excellent interviews and talk about golf. Please go ahead and give us a follow on all of our social media as well. Godzilla Wins Big. We're on X, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. We're on everywhere you can find us. We got a channel, so please go ahead and give us a follow as we try and build that. Thank you again to Peter Kriebel. Find him on Pete's Takes on TikTok, Dan Angel, Mitch Rogers, John Fredericks, and Jack Fredericks. That is all. We'll see you guys next week.